Hello, everybody in the vinyl community. How you guys doing? It's Friday. Cheers. Hope you guys all had a great week. Well, before I get started, I want to thank you all for all the support I've had over this last week. You guys are awesome. I would like to thank Mike at MGK Boston and Steve at All the World's a Stage for shouting me out again and sending people my way. And for all you new listeners out there, new subs and everything else, I really appreciate it. When I started this, I just wanted to talk about records. I wanted to talk about my record collection. And if you go back, you'll see I've kind of changed a little bit as time has went on. I didn't even really know this vinyl community existed at the time when I started. So when I found it and I just started kind of trying to do what they were doing and seeing what they were doing, and it was kind of nice. And then just to be noticed and shouted out and recognized and all that, I really, really enjoy that a lot. I really appreciate all the support from everybody out there. So once again, thanks Mike and Steve for sure. You two guys have put a lot of people my way. Maybe by the end of this episode, I'll be at 50, getting close. Last night, I didn't have much time to really hang out and listen to music like I like to do. We got busy. We're doing all kinds of stuff around the house, and we've got chickens now and things we got to take care of. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I threw on a couple of EPs, and I thought, I throw these on when I'm short on time or whatever, and I always tend to go for the same ones over and over. But last night I went for some stuff that was a little bit different. I don't have a ton of EPs, but I just thought I'd show a couple of my favorites. And, one of my go-tos, this is my go-to right here. This Queensryche EP from 1983. It's got Queen of the Reich on it. Midnight. Yeah, great album. Blinded, The Lady Wore Black, great song. I had this for a long, long time. This is one of the ones I had for a long time, but couldn't find it once I started collecting again. So it's something I've had to buy recently. EMI, it's got the cool gray logo on it. It's in pretty good shape. I didn't pay a ton for it, I don't think. Don't really remember, honestly. But that's one of my go-tos all the time, good progressive metal, It's a really great EP. It's 4 songs. It doesn't take long to get through. So, that's a great one there. That's what, when I first saw Queensryche, when I saw the Warning video back in high school, I was probably 15 at the time when the Warning came out. I want to say that album was in like 85, so maybe I would have been 16 by then. As soon as I saw the video for Take Hold of the Flame off that album, I fell in love, and I think I went out and bought that and that EP at the same time. Same with this band, Rat, self-titled EP, 1985, Japanese pressing, obviously. It's got Sweet Cheater, You Think You're Tough, You Got It, Tell the World, Back for More, Walking the Dog. Cool band, cool picks. Obi's nice and tight. I can't really slide that over to show you guys the rest of that. Of course, all the Japanese inserts and everything. This is another one that I had a copy of when I was younger. I did not have a Japanese pressing, though. I just had a regular American press when I was in high school. That's another album that was gone. I do like this cool Time Coast red logo. I like the look of that. To me, looking at records, sometimes it's also about, I love the labels and everything else. So as I assume all of you do. This is an original press. I only spent $20 on that at the record store. I bought that like a year ago, so that wasn't too bad. Here's another one. Lizzie Borden, Give Him the Axe. It's from 1984. It's their basically debut. It's not their debut album. Love You to Pieces, their debut album. It's got Give 'Em the Axe, Kiss of Death on side 1, No Time to Lose, and Long Live Rock and Roll, which is pretty ballsy for a band nobody'd ever heard of to redo a Dio song, right? To redo Long Live Rock and Roll, that took some guts. Lizzie Borden had, this has got the cool Metal Blade logo on there. It's pretty badass. I don't have the order form that came with most of the Metal Blades. I have it in my other Lizzie Bordens. I just bought that like 6 months ago We have like a flea market type thing, and one of the booths out there sells records. And he had a whole bunch of Lizzie Borden. And I bought Love You to Pieces and Visualize and all the other ones, but I passed on this EP for a while because, it was like $25. There's only 4 songs. I was like, why should I buy that record? Well, it is their debut, and it was definitely, once I came back and started checking it on Discogs and realized $25 wasn't that bad at all. I think it was the condition. You can see this one's got some pretty hefty ring wear on it, but it still plays great. I just actually listened to it before I hit record to remind me of what this sounded like. Nice power metal band, I think. I think they're a good power metal band. They kind of got grouped in with the whole 80s thing, but they're closer to like a power metal thing rather than any type of hair band or anything else. Speaking of hair bands, I had that episode a few weeks back I called Hair Metal Debuts, and I got a comment somebody was saying, by using the term hair metal, you're, kind of lumping them all together, and I get that. And I don't know, a lot of people think that's a derogatory term, but I'm not necessarily sure or not. But yeah, it does lump them all together because you can say a hair metal band is one thing, and somebody like Lizzie Borden obviously doesn't belong in hair metal, But you have lots of great bands that play great music. It's not all just hair metal. What is hair metal? We had 80s metal, and we had power metal in the 80s, and we had thrash metal and all that. So is everything that's just metal is just metal? Is it just 80s metal, hard rock? Where do you draw the line of what's hair metal and what's just metal or hard rock or whatever? Here's another one that I haven't spun in a long time, but I listened to this last night when I was doing EPs, and this is Rail. And I don't know if you guys all know who these guys are. This is an EP they put out in 1984, and Rail's kind of a power metal band, even though they got that look, that 80s look. 1, 2, 3, 4 Rock and Roll was a video on MTV. There was a show called The Basement Tapes. Those of you who are old enough like me to remember that, they won the Basement Tapes. So we all dialed the 800 number and voted for Rail because they'd play these videos from local bands or whatever, from independent bands, and we got to pick who was going to win, and whoever won got a record contract or whatever. And that was this. So I got this. You can see this is autographed. I was talking to my buddy Jim last night, who lives in California, and I was listening to this at the same time, and we went and met these guys at a record store in Ogden, Utah. They were traveling around after they won the Basement Tapes on MTV. After they won that, they started traveling around, and they were at our local, it was a record bar, if I remember correctly, in the mall down where we lived in Ogden, Utah at the time when I was, this album came out in 84, so I'd have been 15 years old, probably 16, because we drove ourselves down there. I do remember that. And we went to the record store and waited in line with not too many other people, but there was enough. And they showed up. They all showed up kind of dressed just like this. We bought their records. I bought this. I bought their album called Arrival, and then they autographed everything for us. So that's where I got this. And that was, it was super cool at the time because I was 16 barely, and I got to meet a rock band. It was the coolest thing on the fucking planet, man. I met a rock band, I met a metal band, and they signed my records. It was great. That's one of those core memories. That's what I was telling my buddy Jim yesterday. We were texting while I was listening to music. And he's like, yeah, you remember when we met those guys? I'm like, hell yeah, man. That's a core memory. That goes everywhere. Here's another one I listened to last night. Live Plus One, Iron Maiden, Japanese press, got Sanctuary, Phantom of the Opera, Drifter, Women in Uniform. This one's from 1980. Japanese press, obviously, with the Obi. I bought this about 3 years ago. I saw it. I was looking for Made in Japan is what I was looking for. I bought that because it's live, but this has got a pretty cool insert on it, too. Superimposed. There's this whole scene right here with Eddie and the girls and all that, and it's got lyrics and everything else. This is a really cool press. Sounds amazing as usual with most Japanese pressings. It's got this killer label. I'm assuming a lot of you guys out there have this. I've been watching, and a lot of us are all the same age and came up at the same time. Um, so yeah, I just picked that up. Like I said, it's been a few years now. I bought that because I was looking for Made in Japan. I got these Maiden albums, and I was starting to fill up my collection, and I wanted Made in Japan because I used to have that on the cassette, and we played it forever. And I couldn't find a Made in Japan, and then I finally found this one, Heavy Metal Army. It says Made in Japan Heavy Metal Army. This is a Japanese press, no obi. This has got Running Free, Remember Tomorrow, Killers and Innocent Exile on it. The tape I had Wrathchild right here in the middle. And all 5 songs were on one side. And then when the tape was over, you'd just flip it over to side 2 and play it again because it was only 5 songs. So we'd listen to both sides every single time we would listen to it. It was so killer. So when I got this, and it didn't have Wrathchild, I kind of felt a little gypped, but I ended up buying Live Plus One, which also doesn't have Wrathchild on it either. But now I've got a couple of Iron Maiden live albums from that time frame. We played them back to back last night. It's like listening to a whole early 80s Maiden record. This one's got a pretty cool strip in it. Not as nice as the other one, but it's still pretty badass with this picture of Maiden in the early days. Made in Japan's from 81. The Live Plus One is from 1980. It's got the same picture on the record, on the label. It's got the same thing. This too sounds amazing, as always. So yeah, I was listening to some EPs. I just didn't have a whole lot of time, and I thought I'd talk about some EPs. Like I said, thanks again for watching. Those guys, Steve and Mike, Steve from All the World's a Stage and Mike from MGK Boston, they took what I did about March Madness and turned it into a thread, which was really cool and really helpful. That wasn't my plan when I did that episode. Of course, I'm kind of new to this whole vinyl community. You guys bringing me in, and I'm still learning and still treading a little bit slow and trying to figure out, what to do or whatever. So as time goes on, maybe I'll start a thread on purpose one time. Or maybe this EP thing would start one, but I don't want to go ahead and just like, I had a thread last week, so let's do another one. I don't want to be that guy either. So anyway, that's what I was listening to last night. It's Friday night. Have some drinks. Have yourself a drink. Listen to some music. Have a good time, because tomorrow's Saturday, and we all know we got yard work and everything else to do. So, all right, guys, thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you all later, man. Have a good weekend.